Welcome to the Edge of NFT podcast with your hosts, Jeff Kelly, Ethan Janney, and Josh Krieger. We aim to bring you not only the top 1% of what's going on with NFTs today, but what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts and the business side, but also the human element of how NFTs are changing the way we interact with the things that we love. This podcast is for the futurists and dreamers, the disruptors and creators, the fans and connectors, and the makers and doers that are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next. Great. I think we got some hot topics to cover as well, Ethan. What do you think?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
We got some
nothing?
hot topics coming up next. First one is Arabian Camels Antara movie NFT to drop on January 12th. So Antara is the first major movie in history funded by an NFT. The Arabian Camels is the first NFT community to produce and part own the rights of a $50 million Hollywood movie. Antara Movie NFT is the first NFT that allows a buyer to digitally part own rights of a Hollywood movie, enabling holders to partake in box office and streaming revenues. This is awesome stuff, groundbreaking stuff. We've definitely been talking with folks that are in this scene of building blockchain into the film and television industry, and it's cool to see this monumental event actually happen.
I think I've run into 3 or 4 people that have said they did the first X related to a film in NFTs, and I think there's some nuance there, but
Sure.
but let's give them some credit where credit is due. Super cool concept, and I think that people wanted to do this a long time. I remember when I first moved to LA 6 years ago, with Territory Foods, my roommate was looking at crowdfunding for film and how to make it more of a egalitarian sort of universal opportunity for people to invest in the types of movies they like. But I think that NFTs have provided the lubricant that was required for this to be easy, for it to be graceful, for it to be clear and accountable. So I'm really excited about projects like this.
I like the idea that we can get more voices heard, right? Like, I don't even really care what the storyline is. I just feel like Hollywood has been producing the same film for 20 years. So if I could go get some new things to watch or do, that would be really exciting to me. And I don't think that it's going to come from inside Hollywood. It's going to come from creative minds well outside of it saying, hey, there's more stories to be told than this one narrative.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, thanks for kind of bringing in the sort of, I don't know what you call it, outside opinion here, I guess, right? You can write a press release that says something's the first thing, but it doesn't necessarily make it the first. It's interesting to kind of look into it in more detail. It's not a live movie, right? So they're even just calling it the first movie, sort of assumes the fact that the movie's actually going to get made. I mean, there's all sorts of historical stories of people going down the path of making a movie and it just never got finished. I think it was it Dune? Like somebody was creating a version of Dune, I think, for example, that never got made or something like that. But yeah, it remains to be seen how well it goes. But it's a celebratory event to see that something like this has raised enough attention to have some traction.
Show.
All right, next one here is the Wall Street Bull NFT collection, sold out in, what do you think, 34? No, not 34 minutes, not 33 minutes, 32 minutes it sold out in. Oil painter Cam Rackham watched in awe as his collection of 10,000 Wall Street Bull NFTs swiftly sold out in October last year. In the first 5 minutes of launching the NFT collection, targeted at the retail traders behind the GameStop mania, 1,000 of the colorfully creative bulls riding rocket ships had already sold. By about 8 minutes, half the collection was purchased. So I think, we were chatting about this before we started, and I guess part of what's interesting here is it feels like there's a pullback, especially with ETH pulling back. There's a pullback in NFTs, but OpenSea is still one of the hugest platforms for Ethereum transactions on the blockchain right now.
Yeah, the thing is it really, every project, right, has a probability of success, if you will, but where you find community, right, again, and we've talked about this a ton on the show, but even now when, you know, maybe things were slowing down in the fall a little bit in terms of NFT sales or whatever, and people were like questioning, yeah, is it gonna continue that path? Is it gonna, you know, recoup, you know, some of the ground that it lost in the fall, whatever? The fact is if you built a good community, and or you have a good community and you've brought them to the table, you've brought them into the fold, like, good things will probably happen if you're offering up real value, real utility. In this case, these guys are tapped into the Wall Street Bets community. We know how powerful that community is. It's built around fun, around freedom, you know, to use one of the topics of today's conversation. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening around it. And so I'm not surprised that, you know, a project like that is going to succeed when it launches, any project.
And in fact, this wasn't the hot topic, but it's worth mentioning. I think GameStop yesterday announced their first NFT marketplace. So they're going to bring an NFT marketplace to life. So the whole thing is coming full circle here, where GameStop is taking a role in sort of the play to earn market. So Agro, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with GameStop now that they've crossed over the bridge.
Yeah, GameStop would be awesome. I'd love to work with them. I think just generally, like, you know, the PFP projects, I get a little bit nervous about because I don't tend to have utility. But like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, what they did, turning that not just into like a social status, but also like a social passport, like that was awesome. So I really commend them for having done that. So hopefully the Wall Street Bets crowd doesn't just leave that as just a pure collectible, but they figure out some kind of utility, because there's a lot of those projects that, you know, had a nice shoot up and a nice shoot down and not really a lot of stayability. But, you know, I think that goes back to having some kind of utility beyond collection.
Yeah, and I remember early on in the NFT conversation this year, at least, you know, being the idea of a Beanie Baby came up a lot, right? It's like, our NFTs Beanie Babies, you know, this kind of trend that is going to be exciting for people for a while, and then it's going to fall off. And I think for me, the answer to that question is, well, one NFT collection could be like Beanie Babies, but like you said, Agro, as long as there's utility you can attach and community and, you know, interesting things that you can attach to NFTs, they're really just a marker of ownership, and it doesn't make the whole concept of NFTs, you know, something that's just a fad.
I'd go the exact opposite way. I'd say that these things are going to be like the greatest store of wealth in the history of the world, and that there's no harder form of money than NFTs. So like the top of the hard money list is something like real estate, or like you got to go into Boston and like buy some expensive apartment and there's no more land there, so you got to pay some exorbitant price. And part of what makes that so powerful is that they're each these kind of unique, a unique building, and that there's a limited geographic region. Now, what I think makes NFTs even stronger is that you still have that property of them being unique. It's an asset that you can own. But like when you buy like Boston real estate or New York real estate, you know, there's a limited geographic number of people that want to live there or own a property there. Whereas like you have a global audience when you get into NFTs. So, you know, I don't think every single project will be successful, but I think that the NFTs will end up being harder money than even real estate, because people are going to fight over them so much, and it's a global audience fighting over them.
All right, Agrod, I think you're giving us a wealth of quotes for your social posts, so let's not worry about that, guys. I've heard a lot of great statements, definitive statements too. Really appreciate your conviction about NFTs. Let's pour ourselves a Hennessy here, guys. Hennessy has entered into the NFT space with $226,000 release, a $226,000 release. Hennessy is creeping its way into crypto. The LVMH owned cognac brand has released its first NFTs priced at $226,450 Each will represent physical and digital ownership of the first and last bottles, 1 and 250 respectively, of Hennessy 8, a limited edition expression from the Cognac House. All right, well, they're aiming high. That's clear with these prices. What do you think, Josh? Is this your next purchase?
It's possible. I like what they're doing. I kind of feel like the exclusivity of these prices is not necessarily a great thing. I like what Splinterlands is doing with a little bit more accessibility to the masses. It's an interesting debate, and it's one that we're going to have at NFT LA, the inclusive versus the exclusive approach to building community and pricing NFTs. Just it's good food for thought.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting with physical underlying assets as a form of utility, but I don't see a ton else there built into this. There's some scarcity. There's the physical asset itself. I mean, it's a brand that speaks to certain class related things or whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's going to do well. Maybe there's something else there. It doesn't get me like that excited that it makes headlines. Like I always talk about with almost anything that does make headlines, has the meta purpose of drawing attention to the space, which I think tends to be a good thing. But I don't know about this one. I'm not so sure. It's funky to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know with these projects that they can be staged, right? Like that's the pink elephant in the room that people don't like to talk about in the space, but I don't mind sharing. I mean, for something like this, it could be a totally legit interested buyer, but it's not like Splinterlands, right? Where I was just looking up aggro. You're still the #1 NFT game in the world. You were when we met, and #2 actual DApp in the world behind PancakeSwap. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there. You can integrate some pancakes into the game and switch places with those guys. But I think when you look at utility and mass adoption, I think you can look at niches like Hennessy and their community as well. And maybe they have some super collectors where this is like their pride and joy. But I hope they think about utility a little bit more going forward and use this as the first of many experiments in the space. Just my thought.
It feels like dumb rich guy stuff, right? Like if you have dumb rich guy money, this is like a dumb rich guy thing to do.
Yeah.
So like, and honestly, businesses and brands should actually plan for that. Like you kind of want to have some kind of whale hunting, whale expedition that you're going on. But I don't think it's a great look to have it as the only thing that you're doing in the space.